In this episode, we expand the railroad as well as take a look at some tools that are helpful when laying track. We do update the switch list.
I'm not going to spend any more than a minute on it because not everybody uses JMRI.
We look at overlooked locomotive maintenance as well as operate the railroad with a couple of former railroad employees. One was actually an engineer. And also check out what the curmudgeon's gripe of the week is this week. Only in this episode, Sue the Milwaukee Road.
All right, it's already time to expand the Hiawatha Elevator District. I'm using my main and siding as a temporary yard. It serves as Southtown. This is track 1. Here is track 2. I need a little bit more room because that's only 14 cars of capacity, so I'm going to expand into the other side. Currently, we have Nokomis track 1, Nokomis track 2, the main that we mentioned, and then the siding, as well as Cargill. We'll be able to expand the main and siding and Cargill by swinging into the closet here and taking a look at what room we have to work with. Now there is a switch on the main, so it's going to open up and give us 3 tracks for siding, the main, and then an additional one, but it's only 24 inches deep as far as the closet is concerned. How much can you really gain in that space? Well, you'll be surprised. I think it's going to work out well as far as this expansion. I end up creating a piece that I was able to just drop in. This is temporary because I have a piece that's going to go in that's more permanent. My track cutter of choice is the Xuron 2175B track cutter. It is great, but you want to make sure you label it for track cutting only. There are a number of other tools that I use as well as standards that I tend to adhere to. The NMRA standards gauge is a great start as far as getting your track spacing down. I am set up at 2 inches on center. I do use these MLR manufacturing track alignment tool. It's not something that you see commonly because they've discontinued it, but I do use it a lot. I do use a laser level to help guide and make sure that the tracks are straight. And to continue the discontinued theme, I do use these rail joiners by Walthers and then some spikes that I have no idea who makes them. If you're looking at a little area to add a little staging in a 1 foot by 2 foot space, it was nice because I ended up gaining 12 car spots.
Hey, guess what? It's quiz time!
The Minneapolis Northfield and Southern Railway on June 2nd, 1982 was acquired by the Soo Line, which operated as a separate railroad until the merge of January 1st, 1986 with the Milwaukee Road. Which of these nicknames was not a nickname for the Minneapolis Northfield and Southern? A, the Dan Patch, B, the Mini No-So, C, Monkey Nuts, or D, M&S? We'll find out later in this episode.
Honey, what are you watching?
A documentary about your relatives. Refining the Hiawatha Elevator District switch lists.
All right, we've looked at this before. It's the switch list that's created by JMRI for the Hiawatha Elevator District. Green means pickup, red means set out, blue means online move. I wanted to refine it a little bit more, so I talked to a few fellow modelers and said, what could I do? They said, well, try to organize the information a little bit better. So I put the important stuff on the left, less important on the right. And you ask yourself,
what's the important stuff?
Well, it's basically the reporting marks and the car number, as well as the location of what's getting picked up or set out. And the stuff on the right that's less important ends up being the car color, car length, car type, just additional information that may help an operator if they need it.
Hey, where's this industry?
It was suggested to add a line drawing of the railroad so you knew where locations were for cars that are being picked up or set out. This is really good for operators that are unfamiliar with your territory or location. And the final point that a fellow operator pointed out was to be able to fold the switch list in half. This gives you more rigidity, it makes it a little bit more compact, it ends up putting the important stuff on one side, and if you have to, you can flip it over and see that other information if needed. Altogether, I was very happy with how the switch list turned out, and hopefully it's going to be good for operators here in the future.
Prepping for ops.
Still?
Kind of dramatic for just talking about couplers.
When preparing for operations, one of the #1 things to address would be your locomotive couplers. This is key. I end up putting on #5 couplers because, well, they're more reliable. I had fellow modeler Dan's locomotive over to do some programming to it, and while doing so, I figured, you know what, I'll help him out by throwing on some KD #5s. Coupler consistency is a must, so it's worth throwing out the trash that comes on the locomotive to be able to set it up in such a way that you have reliability. Here's the rear of the locomotive, everything looks to be good. I end up checking the front, and it appears that the coupler I grabbed had too much crimp in the hose. There is a tool that KD makes to be able to uncrimp. You can use this tool to crimp the hose, but as you can see here, gently straighten the hose out.
Just me, but it seems like he's hardly doing anything.
It's just you.
This can seem like a tedious little lame element that we're addressing here, but it does come down to reliability. It could hit a plow on another locomotive, and you know
That ain't ideal.
So as we've got it set up now, it looks in a much better place. So as far as the couplers are concerned, to be able to go from the junk that was on it to the KD coupler, it's definitely worth the upgrade. Because at the end of the day, you want a show-stopping locomotive, not a locomotive that stops the show.
Make those adjustments. It's well worth it.
Refining the Hiawatha Elevator District switch lists.
Continued.
Well, it's one thing to be able to talk about a switch list and say,
This is what I did.
This is how it turned out.
How cool is that?
and then not show you how to get it done. It took a lot of trial and error to get here, but to be able to take this into JMRI and kind of fudge around and change some of the numbers and edit it accordingly to be able to finally produce the results I wanted, I'm going to take a moment to show you how it's done.
All right, I'll give you 90 seconds and the clock starts now.
All right, I want to take a minute just to be able to show you guys how you can get your JMRI switch list to look like this. I'm not going to spend any more than a minute on it because not everybody uses JMRI. So to get it to look like that, you get into your trains window, under options, go to your trains, and then once you're there, you go to tools and go to manifest print options. You pull up this window that shows you the colors, the color to be able to change the font to green for pickups, red for setouts, and I change it to blue for online moves. The other element to note is that I did downsize the font slightly to 9-point font, and then I changed it to Courier to something that's somewhat readable at a 9-point font. You can look at all the information that I ended up putting here. I did truncate and change some of the information to be able to make it a little bit shorter. They had longer descriptions, so I ended up changing those to make them a little bit more efficient. And the last thing to show you is the tabs. The tabs can be reset as far as their size, and you do that by going under More, while under the manifest print options, and change it to, in my case, 5, 21, and 21. And that's what sets the spacing. If you see here, tab 2 and tab 3 are used to be able to space stuff out accordingly. And the last little bit of information was where the logo is. I ended up making just a custom logo with that track plan on it, and then I ended up loading it right here. I'm not going to click remove because once I remove, then I have to go find the file, and we're not going to do that. So there you go. That's how you set up your manifest print options, and then be able to hopefully set yourself up to have a nice switch list like this here.
All right, let's get that answer.
For the Minneapolis, Northfield, and Southern until around 1963, it was a Class 1 railroad. In 1967, it reported 131 million ton miles of revenue freight on 77 miles of track.
Can we just get to the answer?
Which one of these was not a nickname for the Minneapolis, Northfield, and Southern? Did you guess C, monkey nuts? Oh, you would be wrong. It was actually B, Mininoso.
That was just made up.
Non-M&Sers called the monkey nuts.
Traveling on down the road. Yeah, we're just traveling on down the road. God. Did you get it, Mingo? Horn test complete. Horn test complete. Horn test complete. Horn test complete. Okay, Mingo, horn test complete. All right. All done, bud. Good job. Horn test complete. Horn test complete. Horn test complete. Horn test complete. Okay, Mingo, horn test complete. All right.
What a crazy pair. Thought they're cousins. Identical cousins all the way.
Well, as you can see, those Mueller cousins are a couple of crazy guys.
Now you know we are two wild and crazy guys.
Well, we set them up for operations. I ended up printing out a switch list for them to run, and well, why not take a look at some of the antics?
All right, back them up.
Well, I'm going for the early quit on this, you know.
Early quit. Here
Early
we go.
quit.
Backing them up.
And we have Brent in the black shirt, and he is our engineer for today.
Howdy.
Colin, who's going to be running, he's the brakeman today, and he's going to take care of the groundwork.
I have the switch keys.
So Brent, with the ProtoThrottle, what is your reaction with using the ProtoThrottle?
Awesome. What's up? Awesome.
Isn't it like a new
Awesome.
toy?
It's like the real thing. Like the real thing. All right, we're going to throttle up. Idle.
Back about 20 cars. Are you required to honk for crossings?
You bet. Required. Required.
I do want to touch on the decoder that is inside this locomotive. It is a LokSound ESU decoder version 5. It is actually set up with a file that Tom Klomoski sent to me that he uses for his ProtoThrottle. And what it does, Notches 1 through 5 are actually your physical movements, and then 6, 7, and 8 are just audio related, but make the locomotive sound like they notch up. It's pretty cool.
All right, we're coming back.
We're gonna grab impact about right here.
Impact, I like it.
The impact at 10, 5 to impact.
Our max speed is 14 scale miles an hour.
This video is brought to you by Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper.
3 to impact. 2.
14 miles an hour seems plenty fast.
1 to the couple. Half. 5.
Oh, he threw
Oh, we got a break dunk.
Yeah, we jumped her there.
Oh, Brent got a knuckle on the Yard Ghetto Express yesterday.
Yeah.
Whoa, what's the Yard Ghetto Express?
Oh, you've heard of the North Coast Limited and the Empire Builder. This takes the cake. We've got ourselves a lawn tractor and a few wagons. I'm telling you, if you're going to do yard work, you might as well step it up a notch and have a little fun. Here we have Max sitting in the observation car while Brent tries to explain the incident that happened here.
He had a reason.
Or is it an excuse?
Faulty metal.
And that's the tales of the Yard Ghetto Express.
We got to pull her forward here. Take a stretch.
Stretching them out.
It's the slower pace that I think on a smaller railroad makes it a little bit more enjoyable. I kind of like rail fanning while I'm sitting here running the train, so when it is all said and done, this isn't too slow for me, but for some...
This is gonna take forever.
Take them forward. 10 cars.
Ahead 10.
We won't bore you with the full 3 hours of that slow-paced operations, but we moved a lot of freight during this time as well as got caught up. Colin is actually the electrician on the GN in 1970. My dad met him back in 1987. He gets distracted every now and again.
Tangent.
Notice the SDL-39s came out. Colin couldn't resist.
Can you blame him?
Alright, here's Curmudgeon coming at you about the gripe of the week. The gripe of the week this week is about those people during operations that carry on about things that I really don't care to listen to. I'm telling you right now, if you're talking about your Aunt Martha's boiter, I'm not interested. Please tune out all that excess personal information. I just need to know where's this freight car go. So stop yibbering, yabbering, carrying on about all that other jibber-jabber about your goiters. And that's Curmudgeon's gripe of the week. So stop yibbering, yabbering, carrying on about all that other jibber-jabber about your goiters.
A big thanks to everybody that watches to the end, that has hit like, hit subscribe, as well as made comments in the past. It's those actions that help share this content, so if you haven't checked out other episodes, feel free to do so. You can also check out the tour of the GN in 1970, as well as the past episodes of the GN in 1970.
70s.
So stop yibbering, yabbering, carrying on about all that other jibber-jabber about your goiters.